Hi everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Today we're recording chapter 2 of our guide on femininity. I'd say an unpopular opinion about responsibility. And let's start with what responsibility is and where it begins for one's own life.
Responsibility for your life. Actually, responsibility consists of certain subgroups, but let's start with the most basic part. Responsibility consists, first of all, of the fact that you're responsible for your life, that is directly for your body. And responsibility starts with your body, that is with your health. The most basic thing is really when you have learned to be responsible for your own body, for your health, for your physical and emotional state, and for the ability to truly feel, then everything else in life, all other responsibility, it becomes much easier and simpler.
I want to emphasize here that we take responsibility for the body specifically to learn how to feel, because you can go to the gym every day and be stiff, essentially both in feeling and in your body. And our main message here is that we care for the body to feel through the body because it's the simplest tool.
Yes.
Right, good. So the main thing is the body. What's the next point?
So at the moment when you are in a great relationship with your body, most likely you have a great relationship in your relationships.
Why? Explain it to us.
Yes, for example, let's say take a woman who knows how to feel with her body. That is, she has such a wonderful sense of feeling. She roughly understands when she needs to go to bed, when she needs to wake up, what she needs to eat, whether she's going to dance today or going to the gym, or if today she's just walking. And all these nuances that she feels through the body. When this process is established, then most likely everything will be fine in her relationships too. Because in a relationship with a partner, when you know from your body, from your feeling what you want, then you perfectly understand what to say to that partner. And here again, we'll categorize it right away, probably into such groups. Those who already have children, that's a slightly different story. And those who are in a relationship or are just entering a relationship, that's a slightly different story. And in both stories, the most basic thing is if you want long-term, high quality, well, not necessarily long-term, let's say high quality relationships, relationships where there's openness, where there's sensuality, where there's understanding, what's the most important thing? When you've taken responsibility for your body, you feel it, everything's great, you're already building those relationships with your partner where you're very honest with them. That is, you know how to talk to them through the sensations in your body. And first and foremost, you have this openness and honesty towards each other. And when there's openness and honesty towards each other, there are deep conversations, and accordingly, your relationship will no longer be just some kind of, I don't know, chemistry that happened, but it will already be on a different level.
Okay, but we've looked at what seems like an ideal scenario when both people have taken responsibility. But many girls in the post-Soviet space were taught that, well, you need to marry well, and he will take responsibility for you upon himself.
Yeah.
What happens in that case? Well, and what could be the consequences of like accepting such a scenario?
Scenarios can actually be different. It happens, yes, that a girl says, "What? Well, that's it. My main task is to get married." It's like, well, she got married, that's it, kicked back, and I'm not doing anything. One scenario. Second scenario, she got married and like switched on and starts competing with her man and saying, "Well, you're not so great here, but I'm better here." The third scenario is when, well, a more positive case, when each of them has taken responsibility. If we consider the first scenario, when a woman got married and said, "Well, that's it, my task is finished." There's already,
Mission accomplished.
yes, a marriage certificate. And that's it, you're stuck, man, you're stuck. Yes, that's the scenario when, let's say, this relationship is already consumerist. That is, she threw everything off herself and went into a position of doing nothing. Sooner or later, it will end in any case with them breaking up. Well, either they'll break up or one of them will get very sick. Because when, as they say, you throw off responsibility, something happens anyway. Because this responsibility is not only, well, that is, yes, it's your health, yes, it's your relationships, but it's also your fulfillment. That's the third point. If all of this together isn't maintained like daily in your life, then it'll break through from somewhere. Most often it breaks through the physical, through illness.
Okay, and you said the third point is fulfillment. Let's clarify why this is important for everyone and why we should go there and what will happen if we don't go there.
Fulfillment. The easiest way, I think, to explain it is that, well, let's go two ways. I'll explain the first path. Each of us, when we came to this earth, brought with us in our DNA a certain set of energy. And let's say programs that absolutely must be realized, manifested in this world. If they haven't been realized and manifested, then why are you needed in this world? Well, in fact, it's like you're not fulfilling some of your tasks, your duties. And then, yes, some kind of illness happens to you because in that way, God or the Almighty or your higher self is trying to reach you through this illness, saying, you've gone the wrong way. Come on, you need to do something. They're trying to like bring you back to what you were born for. Or a second example, a bit simpler. For example, here, you are that tree that was planted, so they poured water, cared for it as best they could. And at some wonderful moment, you get these little apples, and the task is for these apples to be picked on time. If they aren't picked, they might like spoil, and then either worms will eat them or something else. And what is this about? About the fact that everything is very good when it's done on time. Self-realization is also from the same story. For some, realization happens very early. Well, he has like programs such that at 20 years old, he becomes, I don't know, someone, maybe makes some scientific discovery, maybe becomes some kind of star, or maybe becomes, I don't know, the person who opened the most needed store, for example, for this city.
Mm-hmm.
For some, realization starts a bit later at 30, for some a bit later at 40. But still, everything we do throughout our lives, we move in the direction of manifesting ourselves in this world. And if we don't do this, this energy that was given to us at the moment of birth, it starts to rot within us. And it's the very thing that kills us. That is, we create for ourselves what is called we ourselves, then end up ruining ourselves. It's health, or it hits relationships, or if there are children, it strikes through the children. Somewhere, yes, this energy is directed so that we start doing something.
Okay, so you said it's directed through the children because many parents, I think, don't realize this, that their lack of realization and not taking responsibility for certain things is exactly what is reflected later on the children. So can you tell us a bit more here or give some examples so it becomes clearer and maybe becomes an incentive for parents to think about it?
Yes, I can give an example. It turns out, let's say from the moment you have a child, you move, for example, from elementary school to middle school. And there, accordingly, the conditions are different, the situation is different, and the math is harder, so you kind of have to push yourself. It's a similar situation here. You have a child and you need to push yourself because now it's about you implementing your own programs while the child carries their own programs, so you kind of have more of them. So in the end, there's more of you. How can this manifest? I can tell you from my own experience, when I also faced a situation where my son had health issues, I was also running to different doctors, looking for the best, trying to do something. I went through so many things. We did all kinds of tests with him. We tried everything. We really tried many, many things. In the end, all of this just kept going on for quite a while until, well, my second son also started to develop some health issues. Then, of course, at some point, I realized that I needed to focus on myself. And when I started to like really unpack myself, well, to do something about it, I noticed, a certain pattern. If I'm doing something, meaning expressing myself, fulfilling myself, directing my energy somewhere, the children are fine. As soon as I retreated into just being at home, just cooking, just husband, just children, whatever, well, you retreat into your role as a mother and a wife, immediately problems start with the children or the husband. And it basically shows you right away that there's something you're missing. And you're like, hurry. Take off the role of mother and wife and run to your self-fulfillment, and everything levels out. So it's not about overdoing it. It's just about knowing when to switch gears.
Okay, we've just discussed that the foundation is body care, relationships, and self-fulfillment.
And self-fulfillment.
Let's talk about other areas where you can also take responsibility, or rather not can, but must take responsibility. For example, for your emotions and reactions. So how does it manifest here?
Responsibility for your emotions. Actually, yes. If someone offended us, it's not someone else's fault. It's our responsibility because that's how we reacted. Our reaction is our responsibility. And if, I don't know, someone is being unkind, again, it's about the fact that this emotion is ours. It's our reaction and our responsibility. And being able to distinguish this fine line where you don't say, you offended me or you hurt me, it's your fault. And understanding that if we tell someone, you offended me and you hurt me, it means that, like a mirror, you need to look within yourself. Where are you lying to yourself deep down? For example, let's say my husband said something the wrong way and I got offended by it. I say, I'm offended by what you did. But if you look at it honestly and really think about it, it becomes clear that, in fact, in that moment, you just lacked some kind of inner depth or breadth to react to those words in a different way. Well, most likely you just created this situation so that he would offend you and you could say, see, you offended me. In general, all these emotional stories, it's about being offended, being hurt, I don't know, getting angry or whatever. Those are actually very good points for our growth. So responsibility is when something happens to you and you don't run to blame someone, but you first deal with yourself. And when you've dealt with yourself, you realize that this person was just the one through whom you received, well, an answer.
So can it be rephrased to say that when we genuinely take responsibility for ourselves, we are actually stepping out of the so-called victim state?
Yes, exactly. That's 100% true. Yes. And here, perhaps, if we take responsibility as the center, then hyper-responsibility, victimhood, like being lazy, I don't know what else to call it, and whatever other extremes there are, those are all extremes. And responsibility is when you are in this middle ground. You don't try to be hyper-responsible, that is, to take on the duties and responsibilities of everyone else, or to fall back into a victim position saying, nothing is working out for me, I'm just so miserable. But to stay right in the middle, like, yes, I'm failing, but okay, I'll just keep on trying.